Poverty shacks, he looks from the cracks to the tracks. And the beat.
Popular musician of the 60s, 70s, and beyond, Bob Dylan quickly created a strong reputation and image of himself never seen before as he merged a folk sound and messages of protest into his music. Despite his increasingly large following, Dylan found conflict within himself as he struggled to compromise his own creative desires in his music with what his audience wanted. In 1941, Dylan was born in Minnesota as Robert Allen Zimmerman. Dylan had a fairly normal childhood. He was born into a Jewish family and denied his culture for most of his life, later converting to Christianity. Growing up, he was inspired by artists such as Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Guthrie, and Little Richard. He chose his stage name when he was around the age of 17. Contrary to popular belief, Dylan did not choose his name Dylan after Dylan Thomas, but instead out of inspiration from the TV show Gunsmoke.
He graduated from Hibbing High School in Minnesota in the year of 1959 and almost immediately started up his dream to become a musician. To this day, he has around 31 studio albums, a quite impressive number for any musician. But having so many albums with so many different genres and topics mean conflict amongst both his audience and internally within himself. Soon after high school, he began to attend the University of Minnesota, where he dropped out shortly after and moved to New York to put his dream in action. Dylan became well known as he played at many local cafes, including the famous Cafe Wha, where many famous musicians, including Jimi Hendrix, also began their career there. Not even a year after residing in New York, he was offered to sign a record contract with Columbia Records on October 26, 1961. Dylan took this offer, eager to make it big, and 9 days later played his first New York concert at Carnegie Chapter Hall.
During the time in between high school, his short college career, and signing a record contract, he started to develop his music style and public image. His style began as more of a country folk fusion, which later turned into more strictly folk, which, to this day, he is quite well known for. Dylan was pleased as he continued to build his image as a folk artist and gained a large following of folk fans. He released his first studio album in 1962 titled Bob Dylan. Dylan became brave and extended into the upcoming genre of protest music at the height of the Civil Rights Movement in 1963.
In 1963, Dylan released Oxford Town, one of his first and most brushed-over protest songs of the Civil Rights era, and it speaks about the Battle of Oxford, also known as the Old Miss Riot of 1962. The song addresses the conflict around James Meredith, a black U.S. Air Force veteran who attempted to enroll at University of Mississippi, only to have a population of segregationists protest his enrollment. The segregationist population gained support from the governor of Mississippi, Ross Barnett. Barnett promised the people that despite the Brown versus the Board of Education case that declared segregation in schools unconstitutional, that the University of Mississippi would remain segregated as long as he was their governor. Later on, Meredith attended the university after a court-ordered admission and had been assigned a team of U.S. Marshals to protect him on campus from the violence of the rioters. Dylan took up the challenge of displaying the conflict in his music from a peaceful perspective to his audience, stating that he went down to Oxford Town, guns and clubs followed him down, all because his face was brown.
While his motives weren't clear as to why he wanted to extend into protest music, it may have been his honest feelings, but some believe it may have been done out of his admiration for the protest musician Joan Baez. Dylan himself admitted in Chronicles, Volume 1, he had feelings for Baez the moment he saw her on TV, stating, "I couldn't stop looking at her, didn't want to blink. Baez was no Raggedy Ann doll, the sight of her made me high." Despite Dylan's instant attraction, Joan was rather unfazed at first sight in 1961 when she watched him perform at Gerd's Folk City.